Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
Christmas Eve in the operating room was the kind of shift that grinds your bones. The overhead lights glared white-hot, and my gloves stuck to my palms from hours of sweat. At 11:57 p.m., we finally closed the last patient, a man whose lips had turned blue while insisting he was just tired. My hands still trembled when I stripped off the gown. The streets home were quiet but for the distant hum of laughter and clinking glasses from warm, lit windows. I unlocked my door, already picturing Nancy at my parents' table, her cheeks flushed from laughter, her plate piled high. Instead, I saw her boots by the mat. Her coat hung over the arm of the sofa, her overnight bag zipped tight. And there she was, curled into herself on the couch, still in the green sweater she'd picked out to look festive. "Nancy," I said softly. Her eyes opened instantly, tired and bright all at once. "Hey, Mom. Why are you here? I thought you were at Grandma's." "They said there wasn't any room." Her voice cracked. I blinked. "Room? At the table? Dinner? Bed? Anywhere?" She gave a dry laugh. There were 34 people there, even the neighbors. But apparently not me. On the coffee table sat a single slice of toast, cold and bent, with half a banana beside it. "That's all you ate?" My throat felt raw. "I didn't want to make them uncomfortable," she murmured, as if that explained everything. I sat beside her, pulling her into my arms. She leaned in without hesitation, like she'd been holding herself upright out of stubborn pride. "I made them cookies," she added, almost whispering. "Thought they didn't have enough food." The words burned. Not rage, not yet, but something heavier, colder, rooting itself deep inside. As she drifted to sleep against my shoulder, I stared at that piece of toast. They hadn't run out of room. They'd run out of kindness, and they'd used my daughter to make the point. My sister Lucia had been born bathed in sunlight, at least, that's how my parents told it. Every stumble was bravery, every failure a lesson learned. When she forgot to pay bills, she was overwhelmed. When I questioned her, I was critical and cold. Me, I was the odd one. The girl who dissected frogs on the kitchen table, who asked for a microscope at Christmas. My mother once hissed, "You scare people with all that medical talk," as though curiosity were a weapon. When I earned a full scholarship to med school, there was no celebration, just my mother's warning. "Don't get too smart. Men don't like women who outshine them." I told her maybe I'd marry myself. She didn't laugh. Years later, I bought my parents a modest 2-bedroom house and paid the mortgage quietly. "No thank you, just the next request. Can you cover the utilities? The taxes? Your father's dental work?" I said yes, every time. Then 3 days before Christmas, the call came. "Haley, you must help my daughter." Lucia's voice dripped urgency. "Mia's been accepted to the Seattle Elite Summer Sports Camp. $17,900. It's her dream." I tightened my grip on the phone. "Lucia, I'm already paying Mom and Dad's mortgage. I can't do that." A pause. "Wow. Must be nice to have everything and still be selfish." "Selfish? You're jealous. You always have been. This is why nobody likes you, Haley. You can't stand when someone else shines." Her words were barbed, deliberate. I felt the sting but didn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. "The answer's no," I said evenly and hung up. I thought it was over. 3 nights later, Nancy came home from Christmas Eve with a bag of untouched cookies and a story about how there wasn't any room for her at Grandma's table. That was no accident. It was payback. I didn't yell. I didn't storm over to demand an explanation. I just sat in the dim light of the kitchen, watching Nancy sleep on the couch in the sweater she'd chosen to look festive. Her overnight bag sat untouched by the door, cookies still neatly wrapped inside. At 5:00 a.m., while the city was still under its Christmas hush, I brewed coffee and opened my laptop. The words came easily. Notice to vacate. The house was in my name. I had paid every cent of its mortgage, covered every bill, repaired every leaking faucet. I didn't write in anger, I wrote with precision. At 9:00 a.m., the notification letter was ready. I drove in silence, the letter in my bag. My parents' street was dotted with leftover decorations and overflowing recycling bins. Their driveway held 2 unfamiliar cars, no doubt overnight guests who had been welcomed while my daughter was sent away. I tucked the envelope into the doorframe and turned back toward the car. The cold air burned my lungs. The door creaked. My mother stepped out, wrapped in her faded red robe. She spotted the envelope, tore it open, and froze. "Frank," she shrieked. "She's throwing us out." My father appeared, hair wild, shirt stained. "What the hell is this?" Lucia's voice floated from inside, syrupy and mocking. "Really, Haley? On Christmas? I met my mother's glare. Consider it overdue." She pointed at me like I was a stray animal, ungrateful little. I opened the car door without another word. My phone buzzed before we reached the corner. By the time we got home, I had 12 missed calls, all from them. Not one mentioned Nancy. I sat at the kitchen table, looking at her cookies. Their absence from that table had been intentional. This letter, my silence, was my answer. And for the first time, I felt the balance shift. 2 days later, the knock came. I opened the door to find my mother standing on the porch, still in that faded red robe, the eviction letter clutched like a weapon. "You're really doing this?" she hissed, pushing past me into the kitchen without waiting for an invitation. I stayed by the doorway. "You mean am I removing you from the house I bought? The one I've been paying for the last 7 years? Yes?" She spun to face me, eyes sharp. "We raised you. We gave you everything." My jaw tightened. "You didn't even give my daughter a plate of food on Christmas Eve." She flinched, just slightly, then recovered. "Don't be dramatic. We didn't have enough chairs." There were 34 people there, including 5 neighbors. I said flatly, "You had enough chairs. You just didn't want her there." She waved her hand like brushing away dust. "Oh, for God's sake, stop acting like we're monsters. Pay for Mia's camp, drop this tantrum, and we'll forgive you." Forgive me. It was so absurd I almost laughed. "You think this is about money? No, Mom. This is about respect. About the fact you've never had any for me, or for Nancy." Her mouth curled into a smirk. "You won't follow through. You never do. You still want a family too badly." The words landed like a dare. That afternoon, I called my lawyer. The house went on the market within the week. The buyers wanted vacant possession. I didn't watch the eviction happen. I didn't need to. Lucia cornered me at the grocery store days later, voice dripping venom. "They're in a dump now. You could at least help with a deposit." I met her gaze, steady and cold. "You watched them send Nancy away on Christmas Eve. That was your choice. This is mine." And for the first time in years, she had no comeback. 2 months later, winter's bite had softened, but the air still carried a sharpness that kept people walking briskly. Nancy and I sat on the porch, mugs of steaming tea warming our hands. She'd been quiet all afternoon, scribbling in her notebook. "Mom?" she asked suddenly. "Yes, sweetheart?" She glanced up, her eyes steady. "You know, I don't miss them. Not even a little." The confession sat between us, honest and unashamed. I set my mug down. "Me neither." The sale of the house had closed weeks ago. The funds went straight into Nancy's education account, her future locked safely away from anyone who thought she was disposable. The rest I kept for us. Not for emergencies, but for living. Lucia hadn't spoken to me since the grocery store. My parents were in a cramped rental on the other side of town, still telling anyone who'd listen that I had betrayed them. I let them talk. One evening, my phone lit up with a number I knew too well. I stared at it until it went dark. Nancy peeked over from her homework. "Aren't you going to answer?" "No," I said simply. "Some calls don't deserve answering." Her smile was small but certain. "Good." That weekend, I took her to the bookstore. She wandered the aisles like she was exploring another country. When she hesitated over a stack of novels, I nudged her. "Get them all." "All?" Her eyes widened. "All," I repeated, and she laughed. A real, unguarded laugh that I hadn't heard in far too long. As we walked out into the cold, her arm looped through mine. I realized the quiet in my chest wasn't emptiness. It was peace. They had chosen to exclude her. I had chosen her back. And if there was one decision in my life I would never regret, it was that. "Where to now?" Nancy asked, her breath a cloud in the air. "Anywhere you want," I said. And I meant it.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.